The games Married People Play is the 16th episode of the first and only season of the Debbie Reynolds Show, and this is a really interesting episode. It's very thought provoking, and I have to say, some of it's quite uncomfortable. Debbie, as always, is getting in the way of Jim's career, and he's a little bit annoyed by this. And he says, and I quote, well, he says something along the lines of, how he's fed up of her getting in the way, and I quote, instead of staying in the kitchen where a normal wife belongs. Yes, sucking air through teeth moment. Let's just remember that this show was released either late 60s, early 70s, depending on when this particular episode broadcast. But even still, to say a normal wife belongs in the kitchen was a little bit, quite a lot to stomach. Thankfully, Debbie Thompson, Debbie Reynolds' character, is very headstrong, and it's not the kind of thing she'd stand for. And she's delighted when Jim gets her a job at the paper. Unfortunately, she doesn't realise, but we the viewer do know, that it's a fake job, and Jim has roped in his colleagues and also his boss to make it the most harrowing, exhausting experience possible for Debbie, with the hope that she will give up trying to get in on his career. And it is quite uncomfortable to see people treating her. It's not so much that they're treating her terribly, well, the boss does, but people are just kind of getting in her way and spinning her chair around, and it's kind of difficult to remember that her husband is putting her through this awful situation. One may argue she brought it on herself because she's constantly trying to worm her way into his career, which in itself is not the best behaviour. But to retaliate like this, it's a little bit awkward. However, it does take a different direction, and Debbie has a chance to get her own back, but I won't say any more than that. But I really enjoyed seeing where this episode went, and it did feel uncomfortable at times. But at the end, the part of the episode where the narrative's over, it's over, and Debbie Reynolds comes out of her dressing room or whatever and addresses the camera, and she mentions something about how couples can be playing games with each other, as the title suggests, but it doesn't have to be meaning they're at war. It can mean they can be having fun, and it kind of suggests that everything in this was just a bit of a game, a bit of a lark. Personally, if somebody did that to me and did what they did to Debbie, I'd be furious. I wouldn't consider that to be a bit of fun in a marriage. Maybe I'm not as thick-skinned as I should be. But yeah, the episode definitely was saying that this is done in good humour and just it's a married couple having fun with each other. Personally, I didn't read it that way. I actually think Jim's actions were pretty nasty. Yes, he was desperate because Debbie was taking things to the extreme, but honestly, don't ever do that to me because it's awful. But it was a good episode, nonetheless. I may not agree with the message in it, but I enjoyed watching it. It's not the most amazing episode. I don't think Debbie's character had the opportunity to give the best performance. Sometimes Debbie really gets to show off her skills as an entertainer, and not so much in some episodes, and this is one of those, but it didn't affect my enjoyment. I still really enjoyed it. I may not agree with the messages of the game as Married People Play, but I still thought it was a pretty good watch.